Today on Fishing with Gussy, I'm by myself and I'm chasing bass. I don't know what I'm going to catch them on, if they're going to be smallmouths, largemouths, but I can guarantee you one thing, I'm going to catch some fish and it's going to be a good show. All right, we're getting geared up here. We're gonna be chasing smallmouth bass today on Fishing with Gussy, and we're kind of on your prototypical lake trout water, deep, clear, and we have plenty of those around across the region. And it's clear water, fairly deep. A lot of these bass are gonna be keying in on eating minnow baits. They eat a lot of ciscos, shiners, maybe some smelt. So that's what we're going with today. I got a number of different minnow baits on. You can see I got some little impulse smelt minnows on one's on a lighter jig head that I'm going to cast and swim, and one's on a little bit of a heavier jig head for dropping below on fish that I see on the sonar. And then I got a jerkbait, a jackal jerkbait. I'm going to use that to cover some water. And who knows, some of these fish might be shallow, they might be deep, they might be in between. So that's the mission today. We're going to find out and hopefully catch a few fish. So I'm going to start out with this jerkbait and see what happens. And we got customers under this. I don't know what they are, but hopefully they're big smallies. So I got a looker. He's thinking about it. Oh, I just got a little drive-by. You can see my bait's over here, so I've drifted out, but you can see right here, if I get it on just my sonar, you can see right there, I had one come up, and my bait's just off the screen, but these are all fish on the bottom, so there's a bunch of something right there. But sometimes this is the game they play and they don't wanna, there we go, got one of them. Feels pretty good. Oh, wrong species. Walleye. And that's sometimes what they are, and sometimes the bass will be kind of mixed in with them too, but walleye looks like he's been missing a few meals. He's kind of skinny. I'll get him back. I'm gonna drop down there one more time and see if that could be all they are, but look at this thing, the graph is lit up. This is a spot I've caught smallmouths on in the past, so. Okay, I got something coming up for it. Oh. So here's my bait, is right here. A lot of times if they're not biting, there we go, you can just slowly pull it up, and if you can get your bait to come up high enough, it will, you can trigger them to bite. Another walleye. So I'm gonna go with, these are all walleyes under us, and we'll just keep casting the jerkbait along here, looking for bass. Back he goes. But that shows you how deadly the electronics are. And I'm gonna, at some point today, I'm gonna come around a point or get on a little hump or somewhere, and those are gonna be smallmouths. And probably there's some smallmouths mixed in there, but not what we're looking for. I got the tournament bug in me kind of coming out today, as far as when I'm down south fishing the FLW tournaments, we get 3 days to practice, and a lot of times it's on a lake that I've never been to and don't know a whole lot about. So you got to make the most of your time and try to cover as much water and put some kind of program or pattern together. And that's kind of what we're going to do today. And this is an area that I've fished before, but I haven't fished in here on this particular body of water this year yet. Oh, big one chasing me. Come on, baby. Oh, I just had a big smallmouth come do about 6 of these right by my bait. Like, it looked like he ate it, and he just never did. And it was a big one that we want to catch. So I just threw the little minnow bait back, and I'm just gonna let it drag. There's actually a little bit of a point that sticks out right here. But I think he saw the boat, so sometimes if they do that, you can end up catching them, and other times just pretend you didn't even see them because they're not going to bite. I would probably, if it was like a tournament situation, I would probably come back to this little spot again in a half hour, an hour, and that fish might be calmed back down again and catchable. There we go. It's a bass. I don't know what brand yet, but smallie. Little guy. Come here, buddy. That was on the little wacky rig again. I wish I always hooked them like that good in the cheek. It's the best place to get them, or right here in the upper lip, but get that guy back, get another one. Well, we're gonna need a new worm. Okay, well, time for a break. We're gonna go try another spot, I think, and continue the bass hunt.
Northland Fishing Tackle is a proud sponsor of Fishing with Gussy. Shop online at northlandtackle.com. Made by fishermen for fishermen. Tech Tips is sponsored by Shimano Rods and Reels. Visit fish.shimano.com.
One thing that I like to do when I'm dropping that minnow bait down to a fish that I see on the screen is I don't like to let it hit the bottom. I guess that's totally unnatural. I know when say you're walleye fishing, you always let your jig down to the bottom so you know that you're there and then sort of start. But when you're fishing below your depth finder like this, I'm watching my jig, most of the time. So I like to stop it above those fish. And if you get onto a little school of bass, they'll usually start coming up about when your bait is halfway down. That just goes to show you how far away they can see your bait coming from a lot farther away than you think.
Tech Tips is sponsored by Shimano Rods and Reels. Visit fish.shimano.com.
Our main focus today is going to be fishing for smallmouths, but there's some largemouths in this water as well. So we're going to rig up a couple baits just to. There's a few little spots. I've fished out here before quite a few times. I haven't been out here yet this year where we are today. So I don't know, where all the weeds are, but there's a few little trees and some little sort of coontail patches that we're gonna go by. So we might make a few casts for some largemouths as well. 2 baits I'm gonna use that are my favorite, just a stick worm. That's an impulse dipstick. And green pumpkin is pretty tough to beat, or black with blue fleck. And then my favorite setup for that is just a 2-aught Gamakatsu finesse weedless wide gap hook. And you can see it's almost like a circle hook, but it's not totally a circle hook. So you can still set the hook with it a bit, but you put that in, set that weed guard just like that, and that's, you can get it through the weeds, through tree branches. It's a pretty deadly little system. And then another thing that I like to do with these, it's windy today, so it's not as easy. These things aren't going to sink as fast as they would if it was calm. So I actually like to put a nail on one end of this thing, just a little nail weight, and that's just a lead. You can buy those sort of wherever, just a little piece of lead, and there you go. So now I've got a little bit of weight in there, and that's a pretty deadly little combo. And then the other thing I'm going to use is just a little spider hula grub with a football head, and these catch them pretty good. You can just kind of cast that out, especially when it's windy, crawl it along the bottom, and that's a deadly little weapon as well. So, and these are good because smallmouths will eat them too. That one's gonna need a retie. But now you know what we're using, so let's go find some bass. There's a bite. Oh, break off. That might have been a pike. It hit it really hard, so I'm gonna grab my little dipstick and make a couple more casts in here before the wind sort of blows us off the spot. There's something. I was just letting it sink, and that looks like a bigger bass. Oh man, yeah, it's a nice largemouth. I don't know if you can see, there's all kinds of that coontail down below us, and you got to kind of muscle them. If they bury up in that stuff, then it's not going to be good. They'll get off a lot of the time. But see how fat those things are? Our largemouths in this part of the world are as fat as they get anywhere in the world, so that's awesome.
Catching some largemouths, we're catching some smallmouths, we're having fun. Stick around, we're gonna see some more big bass coming up after this.
Fishing with Gussie is proudly sponsored by Lake of the Woods Sports Headquarters. Fishing, hunting, outdoors. 702 Lakeview Drive in Kenora, Ontario.
Oh yeah. I think this is going to be a big largemouth. I just casted this dipstick out. Oh yeah. And that thing sank about halfway down. And look at that. That's a beauty. Fish right there. Woo! Come here, piggy. I'm calling him that because he's fat. Look at that. That's a beauty. Awesome. The hook just popped out. Ooh. I will catch those all day long. I'm working on a pretty nice limit here. If I was fishing in a tournament today on 5 fish, that's a bunch of nice ones. Awesome. Love seeing those largemouths. They are so pretty in this part of the world. Green and fat. When you're fishing these jerk baits, and we've done shows with these in the past. There we go. Oh, big one, following it. Look at that. There was actually 2 of them that were coming up behind it. I was just gonna say, it's all about trying to figure out the cadence that those fish want. Look at that little, that's not a little one, that's a big one actually. Jumper. Whoa, come here, baby. Look at that. Yeah. I didn't want to lip them because I didn't want to get a whole mouthful of those treble hooks in my hand, but he was hooked good. There was 2 of them coming up behind it, and I just sort of paused it, and he ate her up. Man, what a nice fish. That's a beauty. Sweet. We're doing good. That's a couple fish, but they're nice ones, they're big ones, and they're both fairly shallow, so we might be onto something here. Get this guy back. Going back after that one's buddy here. I just turned the boat around, And there was actually 2 of them that were following up. And what I was talking about before I hooked up with that fish is when you're fishing with these jerk baits, it's all about figuring out what the cadence that the fish want. And sometimes it's slow and sometimes it's fast. So those baits are neutrally buoyant. So that means they don't really float or sink. They're gonna suspend. So when we twitch them, that little lip's gonna make them dive, and then we're just making it act like a wounded minnow. So that thing's going and then it pauses and it hovers, and that can be the triggering mechanism to make them bite. And when it's usually the colder the water, the slower you want to fish it, and really let it suspend, you know, when it comes off that edge from where you can see the bottom and where you can't. Anytime you're fishing clear water like we are today, it's throwing a jerkbait's never a bad idea. There we go. There's one. That one hit it on the pause. I was just picking it up again to move it along. Oh, not what we're looking for. And if you fish with these things, you're gonna find out, or if you do fish with them, you know that these pike like them. And that's part of the deal. And if you're fun fishing, it's probably not a bad idea to use a little bit of a fluorocarbon leader with them, because they will bite them off. And it's usually those little ones that bite you off the worst. They just come and take those wild stabs at it. And a lot of times if it's a big one, he'll actually come and get the bait a lot better than those little guys. But you can get, I just got to wash my hands a bit here, but you can get fluorocarbon leaders now that are a lot more durable than the wire leaders that we've, you know, have been around forever. And then they're also invisible, they're clear. So the stuff is pretty tough, and it'll save you some baits, some like 80-pound, 60 or 80-pound fluorocarbon in front of that thing. Most tackle stores sell them, and that'll save you some baits for sure. Oh, look at this. We got something on the graph now. I'm just all over the place here. But we just got some kind of little blob down there. Let's see if we can get them there. There, look at that. Feels pretty good. I don't know what we got. Oh, it's a big bass. Big smallmouth. Wow. That is a giant. This is gonna be one of the biggest ones I have caught in northwestern Ontario all year. That's funny, because this is another spot I was kind of casting for largemouth, so it just goes to show you, you get this hot weather later in the season, and these guys will still show up in some shallow water. Wow, that is a big one. That's the kind that you want to see in these tournaments around here. I get excited, man, when I catch those. That's a beauty. Wow. Right on. We're gonna take a break. We'll be right back hunting down some more of these guys.
Well, when I was like 7, like in Canada Day, I asked my dad if we could go fishing, and he said yeah. Then he called Chuck, Hallie's dad, over there, and I was fishing because my dad was catching a whole bunch of jackfish. Chuck was catching bass, and then I was like, I just want to catch fish, and then randomly I caught like this big, huge fish just pulled in under our boat, and then it pulled me, and I was like, it was pulling me so hard I could almost fall in the water. And when I got it in, I was like, okay, this is one big fish. And then people were like, in our boat, people were screaming, and they were like, get it! And then we got it out of the water, and it was about this big. And it was super big. Like, it weighed out like I don't know how much it weighed. It was like 14 or 15 or something.
What kind of fish was it?
A walleye. Hey, check out this photo for proof. There's my proof. This is for real. You're watching Fish Tales on Fishing with Gussie.
I don't know if that's gonna be a bass. Oh yeah. There we go. That's what we're looking for. I was letting that thing sink and my rod just about got pulled out of my hand by that little sucker. Cool. For those of you that maybe don't do a lot of bass fishing, you can see the difference between the largemouth. He ate her up pretty good. The largemouths and the smallies, if I ever can get the hook out of him here. he's hooked fine, he's in the cheek, but it's, there we go. But you can see how much greener and golder that fish is than the smallmouths. And they have usually one vertical or horizontal stripe along their side, where the smallmouths have a number of vertical markings. But we'll get this guy back and see if we can get his grandma. Oh yeah! Woo-hoo-hoo! That's a jumper. Oh yeah. It's a pretty nice one on the jerkbait. Fat. Getting this hook all untwisted. There we go. He'll be good. He's going back. Thanks, buddy. There we go. Let's see what we got. Oh no. Okay, busted. Totally just thought I had a bunch of weeds. Totally thought I had a fish for a second. But all of you that are laughing about it right now, it's happened to you too, so don't lie. It doesn't happen to me very often, but it just did. It's tough with the jerkbait because it's clear, 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 and then you jerk it into something, and a lot of time there's just, with this type of bait, there's a weight there, and I almost said, oh, big one even. Oh, look at that. I'm sure you could hear that just now. I have a piece of weed on there, and a nice bass just came like right out of the water for this thing when I pulled it out. It goes to show you, I expected to catch a lot more fish in deeper water, you know, in that 15 to 25 feet of water that I could mark on the sonar and drop a jig down and catch them, and that wasn't really happening. I got one spot late in the day where I marked some that I think were bass that were coming up and nosing the bait and looking at it, but they didn't want to bite, and I was catching enough doing other things that I didn't stick with it too long. A lot of those big smallmouths were up shallow, the largemouths were up shallow, and that's where they were. So always pays to be open-minded especially when you're bass fishing. You just never know where they're gonna be, but the challenge is always fun. We'll see you next time.